Every watch brand attracts a very specific type of person. And by the end of this video, you're going to recognize yourself long before you recognize anyone else. I've met every single one of these owners because I am several of them. So this is going to be honest, it's going to be a little mean, and I'm roasting myself right alongside everyone in the comments. Let's start with the one you saw coming. Number 1, Rolex. The Rolex owner wants you to know they made it, and they want you to know it without ever once saying the words out loud. Watch how it works. They sit down at the meeting, and the watch comes off the wrist and onto the table, face up, casually, like it just got tired. They lean forward and the suit cuff rides back just enough for the crown to peek out at the exact moment the room is paying attention. None of this is an accident. A Rolex Submariner sitting on a boardroom table is not a watch. It's a press release. And look, I am not above this. I've done the cuff adjustment. I've felt the little thrill when somebody clocks the green Submariner dial and pretends they didn't. So I'm not throwing stones from outside the glass house. I live in the glass house. But here's the turn. Rolex makes genuinely incredible watches. The build quality is absurd, the movements are bulletproof, the resale holds like nothing else in the industry. A steel Rolex will outlive you and probably your kids. The watches were never the problem. The problem is that somewhere along the way, owning one stopped being a hobby and quietly became a personality. The watch is fantastic. The need to make sure everyone sees it is the part we're roasting. If you can wear the Submariner and keep your mouth shut about it, you've already won. Almost nobody manages it. I usually don't either. Number 2, Omega. The Omega owner wanted a Rolex. This is where the entire personality begins. They looked at the Rolex, they looked at the wait list and the markup and the guy adjusting his cuff at the next table, and they decided, very quietly, that they were better than all of that. Then they bought an Omega and spent the next several years building an elaborate case for why it was the smarter choice all along. You will know an Omega owner within about 90 seconds because they will mention the moon. Unprompted. The Speedmaster went to the moon. Did you know that? It's the moon watch. NASA tested it. And if the moon doesn't come up, James Bond will, because the Seamaster is on Bond's wrist, which apparently makes it the thinking man's Submariner. That's a real phrase Omega people use. The thinking man's Submariner. And the frustrating thing, the thing that makes the whole bit so good, is that they're basically right. Omega makes fantastic watches. The coaxial movement was a real innovation. The anti-magnetic engineering is legitimately impressive. And the Speedmaster did go to the moon. They didn't settle. They chose well. They just need to stop fighting a war nobody else is fighting. Rolex isn't thinking about Omega. Omega is thinking about Rolex every single morning while they get dressed. Number 3, Cartier. The Cartier owner didn't buy a watch. They bought a piece of jewelry that happens to tell time. And the beautiful part is that they were completely right to do it. Ask a Cartier tank owner what movement is inside their watch, and you will get a blank, serene, untroubled stare. They do not know. More importantly, they do not care. And they are not going to fake caring just because some guy at a party started talking about escapements. The watch looks immaculate on the wrist. The proportions are perfect. End of conversation. And the design earned that confidence. The Cartier tank still looks modern after more than 100 years, which is something almost no other product on Earth can claim. So wear it proudly. Just don't try to impress a watch nerd with it, because that was never the game it was playing. Number 4, Tudor. The Tudor owner did the math. And they need you to know they did the math. They will not rest until you understand how clever they've been. Here's the situation. Tudor is owned by Rolex, built to a similar standard, often sharing the same design language, for a noticeably friendlier price. So the Tudor owner walks around with a black bay on the wrist and the smug internal glow of a person who found the loophole. They got most of the Rolex experience and kept the difference, and they would love to walk you through the spreadsheet. The annoying part is that they're right. Buying Tudor over Rolex is probably the single smartest play in the entire luxury watch space. The watches are excellent, the value is real, and the dive watches punch way above their tier. But somewhere in the victory lap, the Tudor owner became more insufferable about saving money than the Rolex owner ever was about spending it. Nobody loves a bargain quite as loudly as the person who found one. I know because I tell everyone about mine too. Number 5. Grand Seiko. The Grand Seiko owner thinks they're a watch nerd. And they're close, they're right on the edge of it, but the slightly less flattering truth is that a big reason they're here is they didn't want to spend Swiss money. You'll spot one easily. Stand near a Grand Seiko owner for more than a minute, and they will explain Zaratsu polishing to you. You did not ask about Zaratsu polishing. You may not have known it was a thing that could happen to you. It does not matter. You are going to learn about the distortion-free mirror finish, and then you are going to learn about spring drive, the movement with the second hand that glides instead of ticks, and they will make you watch it glide. And the exhausting part is that the watch backs all of it up. The finishing on a Grand Seiko comfortably beats Swiss watches that cost twice as much. That snowflake dial in the right light is one of the prettiest things in the hobby. The obsession is justified. It's also completely relentless, and at some point you will quietly want your afternoon back. If you've recognized yourself even once so far, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because we do this every week, and the comment section on these is the best part of the channel. Now, the back half of this list is where it stops being about watches and starts being about money. Let's keep going. Number 6. Casio. Now we get to my favorite person in the entire hobby, the reverse flex. This is the guy who owns real luxury watches, plural, sitting in a safe at home, and chooses to walk out the door wearing a cheap plastic G-Shock. And he wants you to notice. He wants you to clock the disposable digital watch on the wrist of a man who clearly does not need to wear one, and to slowly realize he's so far beyond caring about watches that watches themselves have become beneath him, which is, of course, its own enormous flex. Pretending you're above the game is the most advanced way to play it. But here's where the roast falls apart, because the G-Shock crowd are usually the most informed people in the room. They've owned everything, sold everything, and come out the other side. And the watch is basically unkillable. You can drop it off a building, take it diving, forget about it for a year, and it will still be keeping perfect time. A G-Shock will survive a war. No notes. The move. Number 7. Audemars Piguet. The Audemars Piguet owner wants to be seen as different rich. Not old rich, not boring rich, different. Here's how you can tell. They almost certainly discovered the brand through a rapper. Somewhere there was a music video, a lyric, a photo of someone famous wearing the royal oak with that octagonal bezel and the exposed screws, and a switch flipped. Now they own one. And they'll talk to you about streetwear, and they'll talk to you about crypto, and they'll talk to you about the royal oak, but ask them to name any other watch the brand makes, and the conversation goes very quiet, very fast. There is the royal oak, and then there is a void. But the watch deserves better than the hype it rode in on. The royal oak basically invented the entire luxury steel sports watch category. The finishing on that case and bracelet is borderline absurd up close, the kind of handwork that takes one person days. It's a serious watch with serious history. The AP owner just bought the hype instead of the heritage. They paid for the wrist clout and accidentally walked away with a horological landmark, which is a pretty good accident to stumble into. Enjoy it. Maybe read one page about it first. Number 8. Hublot. Hublot. The watch community's designated punching bag. And the beautiful thing is that the Hublot owner does not care, which changes everything. For years now, the entire internet has agreed on one thing. Hublot is trying way too hard. The loud cases, the rubber straps on a luxury watch, the relentless football sponsorships, the sense that the whole brand is shouting at you from across the room. Watch snobs treat owning one as a personality red flag. It's the closest thing the hobby has to a universal punchline. But the snobs are quietly lying to themselves. The materials Hublot develops are legitimately innovative, scratch-resistant colored ceramics and sapphire cases that other brands later borrow. They build a real in-house movement. It's a more serious watch than the meme allows. And the owner? The owner is at a beach club having the time of their life, wearing a watch they love, completely unbothered by a forum they have never once read. The community will never admit the watch is good. The owner already stopped caring. The owner won. Number 9. Richard Mille. Richard Mille is simple. The Richard Mille owner has more money than sense, and they need the room to understand that within about 30 seconds of walking in. This is a watch that looks like a tiny Formula One engine got tangled up in someone's wrist. Skeletonized, tonneau-shaped, impossibly light, and priced like a supercar. Not a watch that costs as much as a car, a watch that costs as much as several cars. And the engineering is real. The shock resistance is no joke. These get strapped to the wrists of tennis players mid-match and survive the whole tournament. That is real innovation. It's just worn, almost entirely, by people who treat the price of a house the way the rest of us treat the price of a Fitbit. Incredible watch. Slightly alarming clientele. I'd still wear one in a heartbeat for the record. Number 10. Vacheron Constantin. The Vacheron Constantin owner is the Patek owner who reads. This is a person who could have bought the watch everybody recognizes and chose very deliberately the one almost nobody does, because in their world, recognition is for amateurs. Obscurity is the real flex now. When a stranger glances at their wrist and clearly has no idea what they're looking at, that's the win. They wanted that. Except, and this is the delicious part, they are also secretly a little hurt that you don't know what it is. They picked the watch nobody recognizes specifically so that nobody would recognize it, and then quietly resent that nobody recognizes it. It's a perfect contradiction, and they live inside it every day. But the call was smart. Vacheron Constantin is the oldest watchmaker in the world still in continuous operation. Centuries of uninterrupted history riding on the wrist, with that little Maltese cross stamped on the movement. Choosing the connoisseur's pick over the obvious status pick is a sophisticated, slightly smug move. They made the right choice. They just wish you knew they'd made it. Number 11. Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe. Old money. Or someone trying very, very hard to look like it. There are two kinds of Patek owner, and learning to tell them apart is one of the great joys of this hobby. The first kind inherited it. The watch has been on 3 wrists in their family, it carries real history, and they barely mention it, because to them, it's just the thing Dad always wore. The second kind bought it last Tuesday, and has already worked the brand into 4 separate conversations. And you'll know the second kind because at some point, they will quote the line. You know the line. The whole, you never actually own a Patek Philippe, you merely look after it for the next generation speech. They deliver it like scripture, a little misty, as if they personally are a humble steward of horological heritage and not a guy who saw a clever advert and felt something. But the watches. The watches are some of the finest objects human beings have ever manufactured. The hand finishing, the perpetual calendars, the movements that look like art under a loupe. When people argue about the best watchmaker alive, Patek is always in the conversation, and usually winning it. So if you're going to be completely insufferable about one single watch, this is the correct one to pick. You've chosen the right hill. I respect the hill. I just wish you'd stop reciting the advert at dinner. So here is where it all lands. Every watch on this list says something about the person wearing it, whether they signed up for it or not. The watch talks. It always talks. The only real choice you get is whether you're honest about which conversation yours is having. The mature move, the truly cool move, is just owning your stereotype. Yeah, I'm the guy who adjusts his cuff so the crown shows. Yeah, I did the Tudor math and I won't shut up about it. Whatever yours is, own it. Because the people insisting they're above all of this are usually the most obvious ones in the room. So tell me down in the comments, which brand are you wearing right now? And which stereotype hit a little too close to home? Be honest, I already confessed 3 of mine. And we barely scratched the surface. There's a whole second list sitting in the drawer. The Speedmaster versus Seamaster Omega Civil War, plus Seiko, Tissot, Hamilton, Breitling, Panerai, IWC, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and a pile more. If you want a part 2, say the word, and I will roast every last one of them. Myself included.